Hello, my beautiful flower friends. Today, I will be showing you how to create an herbarium. An herbarium is a collection of dried and labeled botanical specimens. Each entry is accompanied by a label with information like what type of plant it was, date of collection, location, and person collecting. It's basically a library of preserved botanical specimens used primarily for education and research. But the herbariums that I'll be creating with you today are more for memory keeping. I'll be creating a modern herbarium and a semi-traditional herbarium with a free label available for you to download. To create this modern herbarium, I'll be using a white paint pen. Water or oil-based is fine. I prefer to use a water-based paint pen because it wipes off easily to correct any mistakes. A frame of your choice with a template cut to the size of your frame. My template has a font that I chose with 3 different potential sizes. This is just a guide for me for when I write the location on with the white paint pen. I have tutorials on my channel for the 3 different methods of pressing flowers, using a microwave, traditional flower press, or with a book, so you can follow along and press your own flowers using those tutorials. I also have specific flower pressing tutorials for most of the flowers I'll be using in this video. I will link all the corresponding tutorials in the cards and in the description box. The flowers that I'll be using for this modern herbarium are goldenrod, purple stalk, fern, alstroemeria, and carnation petals. What I'll be doing first is using my template as a guide for me to handwrite the location of where I've pressed all these flowers. I'm really picky with my handwriting, so I wasn't too happy with this one, and since it is a water-based paint pen, I can easily wipe it off with a damp paper towel. Once I'm happy with the script, I'm just putting the flowers in there to see composition-wise what's on the foreground and what's on the background, and cutting plants to size so that they fit into the frame. I won't be using any glue to hold these flowers down in the frame because I do want it to be a little more free-flowing, but I do recommend for you to check out the video on how to press alstroemeria because my alstroemeria breaks apart in the final frame. I think the final frame is beautiful and simplistic and serves as a great memorabilia for a location that you've lived in. I can imagine if you move around quite often, if you have a frame for each place that you lived in displayed on the wall, it would be so cool. For the semi-traditional herbarium, I'll be using Mod Podge as my glue, a round tip brush to apply that glue, tweezers to help me handle the flowers, and the label. Since this is for memory keeping and semi-traditional herbarium, I've eliminated a lot of the entries that are in herbarium labels used for education and research. So this is a more simplified label that provides you all the information you need to know where you were when you collected this plant, what it is, and when the date was. I'll be using watercolor paper to mount my flower on. And for this herbarium, I'll be using a yellow lily. I started off by mocking up the composition. Personally, I don't like the look of having the label on the front of the frame. So I'm going to change it up a bit and have the label on the back of the frame and highlight just one lily. To reconstruct this lily, I'll be using a mixture of the Mod Podge glue that I had mentioned before and also a glue stick. I find that using a glue stick for the more delicate pieces works better and using any type of liquid glue works better for the more hardier pieces. Once the flower is all reconstructed, I'm just putting something flat on top of it to hold everything down while it dries. While that's drying, I'm just filling out the herbarium label. Next, I'm putting everything into the frame, putting the backing back on, and securing it in place. And this is the final result. I think this frame is timeless and beautiful, and perfectly displays the plant without looking too much like a research center. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you do end up creating your own either modern herbarium or semi-traditional herbarium, please tag me because I would love to see. Until next time, take care, happy pressing, happy creating. Bye!